right now, the National Association of Home Builders CEO. So he's the boss there. Jerry, you know, if you're a home builder, you would look at this and say, well, nice environment. But of course, your members' costs have been going up. And among the CEOs, certainly their enthusiasm of late's been going down. Their home builder confidence has gone down, I think, for 3 straight months now. What do you make of that and how it fits in with this higher, you know, general home price environment?
Well, it's actually 4 straight months that it's gone down, Neil, and that's very disconcerting to me. It's indicative of the fact that our members are starting to look out into the late summer, the fall, and into next year and say, we better maybe readjust our business plans because we can't afford to build these houses. Construction costs have gone up by 20% year over year. And you can't build a house that's affordable, which is why the average price that Jerry Willis just mentioned, $385,000, for the first time in many, many years, the average American can't afford to buy the average priced home. That's a real problem.
But the prices keep going up. So where do you see this going?
Well, you know, you and I talked about it not long ago, and I'm still saying that we're staring into the face of a perfect storm. Our costs are going up. Consumers' costs are going up. The demand is still there, but it's getting more and more fragile. We're seeing less traffic in our model homes right now than we have in the past. I am concerned more today than I was a month ago when I talked to you about a potential housing recession.
So when builders look at all of this stuff, you know, are they then stopping, spec house building, or are they just doing it in response to a locked and ready to go deal? In other words, do they scale down their building in this environment? Because that could also work against them, right, if they're wrong on this.
Yes, but right now the concern is whether or not they can build a house that meets the contract. So either we're seeing in some spec instances where they've laid the foundation, they just haven't framed. Or in other instances where it's more of a custom contract, you see a situation where they'll put in escalator clauses. And too many escalator clauses are a real anathema to the home buyer, and the home buyers back away. In order to cover our costs, we are either slowing things down until we get more certainty, or we put in escalator clauses. Neither one is good for the economy.
Jerry, where there's a crowd of people who can qualify and deal with these higher prices and these higher interest rates, but it sounds like the bottom or the first-time home buyers, they're pushed out. So the logical question to ask you, can those who are not first-time buyers, in other words, the second or third or vacation or investment home buyers, keep this market going?
Vacation and investment home buyers will be there because they're the upper end of the market. They'll always have the money to do it. The move-up buyer, the second home buyer, counts on being able to sell their home to move up. That's a problem. The first-time home buyer, though, is really the linchpin of the market, Neil. And if we don't have enough inventory to keep the first-time home buyers in the markets with houses that they can afford, that will impact very severely the rest of the entire housing market.
Where do you see interest rates going, Jerry? Everyone's worried, oh, it's a 5% mortgage now. As you and I have joked, and I've told you maybe once or twice, that was a third about what my wife and I were paying for our first mortgage in the 80s, and we thought we were brilliant, Jerry. But where and how high do you see things going?
Right now, it's hard to predict a cap. They're going to raise them again, I think, a couple more times this year, and they're looking at raising interest rates 3 or 4 more times next year, as I understand it. So it's hard to say, but for every time they raise interest rates, they force more and more people out of the market.
All right, so every time they raise interest rates, it would affect, for example, 30-year fixed-rate mortgages, which are kind of attached to the 10-year note, but we might see a situation where, some interpret what the Fed's doing will slow down the economy, so yields there don't back up that much. And since that is pegged to all of these mortgages, that might be a good thing. Am I making a stretch here? Or what do you think?
I think you're making a stretch, to be honest with you. I think when you're looking at increased construction costs that aren't coming down, you're looking at increased regulatory burdens that aren't coming down, and increased mortgage rates. The housing sector is getting squeezed from both ends of the pipeline, and no matter how you analyze it, that can't be good.
All right. I want to thank you, Jerry, I think, but you've been pretty right about this throughout this process here, things that are worrying you. Jerry Howard, the National Association of Home Builders CEO.